My title for this talk is, Would You Tie a Lamb to Your Bedpost? I've always found it fascinating that each Hebrew month has its own sign of the zodiac, its astrological sign, its mazal. And the sign of the zodiac for the month of Nisan is, very appropriately, lamb, about which I'll say more later. In Judaism, we understand the significance of astrological influence very differently from the way in which Paro's Egyptian astrologers, who worshipped the stars as idols in the natural world, understood it. I think the Jewish idea, which we can see from Birkat HaChodesh, the blessing for the new month, which we say on the Shabbat prior to each new month. In fact, we said it yesterday in Shul on the first day of our opening, which was very lovely, because today was Rosh Chodesh Nisan. And this Birkat HaChodesh has a twofold aspect. And from this we can understand, get some idea of the significance of the Jewish idea of astrological influence, or mazal. So the first of these aspects is God's influence flowing down into each month from the aspect of godliness that's above the world. It transcends and surrounds the world. Sovev ha'olam, expressed by the name Hashem, Yud-K, Vav-K. And the second aspect is the name Elokim, which signifies God in nature, the aspect of God as he fills the world, Mimale ha'olam, not misaviv, transcends and surrounds, but Mimale, completely fills the natural world. So when we say the blessing for the new month, we draw on both of these elements. You can think about it, firstly, from the aspect of God as he transcends the world. We ask he who performed miracles for our ancestors and redeemed them from slavery to freedom, please soon redeem us as the Jews, as the nation of Israel, and unite us as the world from all four corners of the earth, signifying the Messianic era. Secondly, we ask God, as he is with us in our day-to-day natural world, so to speak, to renew the month for us by bringing the concrete daily blessings within it of life, of peace, of joy. That's what we ask for in this prayer, in this Birkat HaChodesh. But are we just passive recipients? What about us? We're doing a lot of asking. You know, we're doing a lot of asking for God to create miracles for us now by bringing the Messianic era. And you've done it before, we want you to do it again. And we want all these daily blessings, life, health, peace, joy. How do we earn the blessings for which we've asked God? Why should God give them? And as we shall see, both the exodus from Egypt and the bringing of the Messianic era have to depend on our response to this question. So to get a little closer to our lamb, let's explore this question further. Let's look at Parshat Bo, chapter 12, verses 3 and 6. All about what the Jews were asked, all about the Haggadah. God gave Moshe the commandment to give the Jews in Egypt this instruction. Be'esel HaChodesh hazeh v'yichu lachem ish se lavet avot, se labayit. On the 10th of the month of Nisan, every head of the household must take into his home an unblemished lamb, se. In its first year, and don't forget the lamb was the sacred god of the Egyptians, so there was a very bold thing to be asked to do in plain sight. One lamb, levayit avot, for each household, or more, so that there was certainly enough in each household for the people who were in it to eat. This lamb, or these lambs, had to be tethered, tied to the bedposts of the Jews for 4 days before slaughtering, roasting, and eating it as the Korban Pesach on the 14th of Nisan. So Rashi asks the question we ask, why was it necessary to take the lamb into their homes 4 days before its slaughter in plain sight of the Egyptians, in public view? I mean, houses didn't have, security walls and fences. They were just hovels. They were just open. The Egyptians could see everything that went in and out and on in them. So Rashi explains in the name of Rav Mastia ben Harash that actually the time had in fact arrived for the Jews to be freed, but they had no mitzvot with which to busy themselves to be worthy of this redemption. So therefore, says Rav Mastia, God gave them 2 mitzvot, the blood of the Pesach lamb and the blood of circumcision. Those who didn't circumcise themselves immediately, because they were still in doubt about doing something like that, even if it was a commandment, had those 4 days in which to do so and make a proper commitment, of which they may not have been certain at the beginning. And the tethering of the lamb for so many days in their homes in public view of the Egyptians, slaughtering it and putting its blood onto the doorposts of their homes, showed God and the Egyptians that the Jews had boldly eschewed Egyptian idolatry, as did their roasting and eating the lamb, which became transformed from Egyptian idol to Korban Pesach. And the blood of circumcision, both those who'd circumcised themselves immediately on the first day and those who had circumcised themselves on the 4th, which was mixed with the blood of the lamb, testified to God that the Jewish people reaffirmed their original covenantal relationship with him. Through these 2 deeds, these 2 mitzvot, they merited redemption. So what's the take-home message of all this for us, including the question we asked earlier about why we deserve the blessing we ask God for in the Rosh Chodesh prayer? The Alter Rebbe, Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Yardi, the father of Chabad Chassidut, states in his seminal work, the Tanya, that the Jewish soul is a chelek Elokai mimal mamash. In reality, verily, materially, our soul is a piece of God. Understood in another way, a piece of godliness within materiality, the mamashut, in actuality. This is an innovative idea. The idea is that the soul, invested within and tethered, like the lamb, to the bedpost, so to speak, of the physical body, must find a way of expressing itself through physical structures. These structures, appropriately, are practical physical deeds, mitzvot, which may at first seem antithetical to spiritual existence. Plain old doing nice things for people. What's spiritual about that? However, in performing them in response to God's divine command, we trigger the divine capacity within ourselves to transform our purely physical actions into spiritual deeds. It's made us holy with your commandments, lifted us. Think about your day today. In what ways did you transform, or me transform, I transform, our purely physical actions into spiritual deeds? Was there tefillah or learning in our day, preparing for Pesach, doing an act of kindness, giving tzedakah? If not, then make a decision that tomorrow will be different. This is the message. So now our shul is open, and we'll, please God, go from strength to strength as our community hub and home once more. Let's take the mitzvah of tefillah as an example of physical and spiritual synthesis. So in shul we sit or stand, or sit and stand and stand and sit and sit and stand, holding our sidurim, and say or sing with more or sometimes less accuracy of pronunciation, and with more and perhaps often less understanding of the meaning, the Hebrew words written on the page. And often we're unable to join in with the melodies that accompany them. Yet, paradoxically, this very series of actions creates the structure which makes it possible for us not merely to read, say, sing, but begin to perform these actions together with others as spiritual actions. So how is it so? What happens? What's the magic? Tefillah, prayer, is a mitzvah. And as such, it is crucial to perform it in the very best way possible. And we must be rigorous in mastering the skills of Hebrew language, reading, learn the translation of the words in the Siddur, make the effort, and go on to gain further knowledge and understanding of their more profound and conceptual meaning, not only their translation. These activities are the body of the mitzvah, so to speak. And once we've mastered them, we can begin to develop our intellectual and deeply reflective capacities based on the understandings we've gained of the proper inner kavanot, the intentions of the mind and heart when in prayer. And this is the soul of the mitzvah. Tethered like the lamb, and untethered like the redeemed Jewish people. Our soul, as a part of God, imbues us with the ability to express our divine nature in a relationship with Him. Through our profound reflection on the full meaning and nature of what we're doing, or saying, or learning, and on the kind of relationship we're establishing with God, the soul, which is our spiritual essence, connects with Him. And in Judaism, there is no intermediary. Him and us. Me and capital Y-O-U and you. Or as Martin Buber famously said, I and thou, which I have problems with, but there it is. So now this evening, we bond together and are held within our Rosh Chodesh group, engaged in quite a spiritual discussion. How can we maintain this, enrich it, replicate it? So our sages tell us that it is in our hands. Ki karov elecha hadvar me'od b'ficha u'b'levavcha la'asoto. The thing is very near to you. It's achievable in practical terms. It is in your mouth to speak and learn about it. And it is your heart, in your heart, to have the passion to do it. We've got all the tools. We just have to put in the effort. It seems to me, excuse me, to make a qualitative difference to the way in which we feel, think about, and experience Rosh Chodesh. If we've learned, for example, the ways in which the mitzvah of celebrating it relates particularly to us as women, Rosh Chodesh actually matters and is the context for us then of a richer spiritual consciousness, which leads to practice, which we are now reclaiming. It's that shift of consciousness that changes the nature of our actions. The idol lamb became the Korban Pesach, its transformation. Famous commentator Pirkei de Reb Eliezer states, when the men came to take their wives' gold earrings for the golden calf, the women refused to hand them over. You know all this. But I just love it. They told their husbands, will not obey you and help you to make an abomination that has no power of salvation. And God rewarded them in this world for their refusal by granting them a greater degree of observance of Rosh Chodesh, a special day, a holy day, a spiritual day. And he will reward women, us, in the world to come by giving them the power of constant renewal, which characterizes Rosh Chodesh. The ability to give birth, the ability to reinvigorate, the ability to bring renewal to every phase of our life. Look at things in a different way. Women are incredibly creative. It's precisely this power of renewal that we enact today by reinvigorating our historical and spiritual connection to the source of the mitzvah of observing Rosh Chodesh. Today's mitzvah is about observing Rosh Chodesh. Soon it will be the mitzvah of observing Pesach. But the little days in between are also special, and we have to winkle out their specialness. While the Jewish people were still in Egypt, cruelly tethered to the harshest physical existence, they were given the mitzvah of establishing the months. God says to Moshe and to Aaron in the land of Egypt, HaChodesh hazeh lachem, Chodesh Chodashim. This month shall be the very first of the months for you. It is the beginning of the months of the year for you. And this is here in Parshat Shmot, chapter 12, verse 12. And on the words, and God said to Moshe and Aaron, the Midrash explains, why did God speak to Moshe and Aaron? Because the sanctification of the months is done by a bet din of 3. When God sought to sanctify the month, he said to Moshe and Aaron, I and the 2 of you shall sanctify the month. I thought that was very beautiful. From Shemot Rabbah 15. On the words, HaChodesh hazeh lachem, for you, God said to Israel, again in Shemot Rabbah 12, until now, the sanctification of the months was in my hands. But from now on, it is given to you. The Bet Din ratified it, sanctified it, but now we're handing it over to the Jewish people. So Nisan, as the month of our deliverance, is referred to as the first of the months. And if, as it does this year, fall on a Sunday, Rosh Chodesh Nisan falls on a Sunday, fell on a Sunday, the first day of the Jewish week, then it's exactly like the first Rosh Chodesh Nisan, from which all others have derived their goodness and blessing, including the Sunday of Rosh Chodesh. on which the Mishkan, the tabernacle, was dedicated. So we have some good connections for today. It was the very first time of the first month of Nisan, and it was also the month in which the tabernacle was dedicated, Sunday Rosh Chodesh Nisan. And in relation to the Mishkan, God says, Ve'asu li mikdash, build me a mikdash, v'shachanti b'tocham, and I will dwell in each one of you. It doesn't say b'tocho. It says, if you build me this mikdash, I will dwell in each one of you as the architects of the physical space that you create with yourselves to house an infinite God. So we become the vessels, we become the keli, and we have to craft ourselves, make ourselves into that keli by mitzvot, by partnership, by willingness, by effort. Even to the point of, if you want, the effort taken to, if we're in doubt, circumcising ourselves, that complete mesirut nefesh, giving ourselves over in an agonistic kind of way to making ourselves a fit vessel for God's blessing. Don't get me wrong, I don't believe in female circumcision, but I'm just saying that kind of depth. The Pesach Haggadah instructs us, Se olamad, go and learn. As Jewish women, and of course, as an entire Jewish people, this is our hope, our aspiration, and our future. And only through the structures of consistent and energetic Judaic learning and practice, into which we put all our effort with patience and perseverance, working on our hearts and minds, and most of all our excitement in the endeavor, and developing our confidence as women, as learned Jewish women, we will shape ourselves as flourishing Jewesses, able to unlock the tethered nature of our daily lives, and untethered as spiritual beings, be nourished by the more sublime. So the fabulous Jewish coup, and the answer to my question of, well, would you tie a lamb to your bedpost? The answer is, we must. Because the untethered is grounded in the tethered. And the height of Jewish spirituality rests on the structures of prayer, deed, mitzvah, and of education. Or, as Pirkei Avot would have it, the world rests on three things: Torah, Avodah, and Gemilut Chasadim. So Chodesh Tov, everyone, to you all. And may our prayers be answered, our mitzvahs increase, and our confidence as Jewishly educated women flourish. And it's up to every one of us, together with God, to make Chodesh Nisan and the rest of our lives a true time of redemption for ourselves and for the Jewish people.
So I've heard that there's something, Nisan, it's like the head of the month, and it has the power to really, it has such a special power, Rosh Chodesh Nisan, for the blessing, for the whole year, how it should go, what we do, especially today, prayer and everything. I just read something briefly today, which I didn't know, that there's a lot of special days in Judaism. Purim's a special time to pray, and there's many, special times, but I didn't realize that Rosh Chodesh Nisan in particular is also one of those times.
Very much so. It is the time, we count the months. We count the Hebrew months. The Hebrew months begin with Nisan, Nisair, Sivan, Tammuz, Av, Elul, etc. And the Hebrew years begin with Tishrei. So it's Nisan is the time that the Jews became a nation, an entity, an identity of people. Very, very important. It is that is such a tremendous koach. It's just a life, an energy. It is the creation of the Jewish people. And with God, we are involved in the renewing and the recreation of that. Yom Yomi, daily. Today and today and today. Why should we not do that? God does that every moment, recreates the world. If we could only hear with extendable ears, like Harry Potter, who can hear everything with extendable ears. God saying all the 10 utterances that he spoke at the beginning of the creation of the world, constantly keeping the world in existence. A hum. It is the hum of the sublime generator in the world. And we can't just leave it there. We have to capture it. We have to feed it. We have to nourish it. By making ourselves kelim and doing mitzvot. Janet.
Strange question. I kept thinking when you were talking about kelim, do we need to keep a bit of ourselves a bit empty as well? Because if we fill ourselves up with not the right things, do we need to keep almost like that space? Because what you said about Harry Potter, how can we hear it unless we have that space with us?
Absolutely. There is, that's absolutely the story of, it's very appropriate for this time, the difference between chametz and matzah. So chametz has this chet, very, very closed, with only one opening which leads down to the ground. And in this, it leads down to the deep earthly trap. Da-da-dum. And matzah, oh, hey, complete, it has this wonderful aperture, this hole through which God can enter. So yes, absolutely yes. The humility of self is hugely important, to leave a space for God. Rachel, did you want to say something?
No,
Sorry.
Wishing you a wonderful week and thank you for wonderful lesson.
Thank you for coming.
I have a question. So were you telling us that Rosh Chodesh and the festivals, there's a special time where the energy, it's time where God is listening to us. It's much easier to connect, and by doing the mitzvot and those physical deeds, our prayers and our hopes and whatever we do, they reach in a better way than other days that this special connection is not there, or the special energy is not there.
I have to answer you yes and no.
Ooh.
Yes, I have to answer because you quite rightly say that at these special high points, these special moments of which we must be conscious, because Rosh Chodesh is not a chag per se, it's not Shavuot or Rosh Hashanah, Pesach, Purim, all these high profile stuff. Rosh Chodesh comes every month, so yes, so do we know, do we care? Maybe yes, maybe no, what's the relevance? But as you rightly said, for women, it's an incredibly special time. It is called an et ratzon. It's called a unique opportunity. And as you rightly said, it's a unique opportunity because of the nature of the day or the time, the et, the moment to connect. But to do that, we have to be aware of the et ratzon. So we have to listen to the music playing, which goes back to the emptiness point. Don't fill it up with busy. Leave a space for that. What did I hear? Was that God muttering his 10 utterances again? Hey, it's a special time. Let's connect. So the answer is yes. However, I want to say no, because it should be like that every day, if that's not too much to ask. So something to work towards an enriched and enhanced sense of spiritual consciousness. Not only that, so that we float above on the lovely smell of cannabis, which you smell more and more as I go for my walks. but on it rests on this wonderful transcendent place of deed, spiritual action, prayer, learning, in spiritual person, developing spiritual personhood. And that's just not reserved for special days. That should be every day.
It's interesting. I've had a real thing, and maybe it's the power of Rosh Chodesh today that's really helped me reveal it. So Sha'ar HaBitachon, which I really love, and I studied it when I was in Crown Heights, and it's something, so the Gate of Trust, it's one of the works of Rabbi Abaye, and it's something that you kind of, sometimes you can read something, but it's very hard to, when you're feeling stressed, to actually incorporate that into your behavior and try and remember it's all in Hashem's hands. Like, there's no point driving yourself crazy, because Hashem wouldn't want you to do that. You have to make your effort, but then, you know, then trust in Hashem, what will happen, really believe it will be good, and you make your effort. And I just realized that I've been working myself like to the ground, even on the one hand being grateful that Hashem's given me this job and blessed me with this good job and everything else, but literally working all weekend, working evenings. And it got to today, and I just realized I've almost been making myself ill from it. And then I realized, even though I thank Hashem every day for my job and my livelihood, actually I've not been practicing the trust. Like, really, Hashem wants us to toil, but not to toil to such an extent. Like, we have to have space for spirituality, to have enough time to devote to that. And so I suddenly just really realized today, Rosh Chodesh, that normally I would do some work every Sunday, and I just refused to. And I thought, you know what, Hashem has blessed me with this good job. He wouldn't want me to make myself ill from it. And things are beginning to go a bit wrong, actually, I think, because I'm not meant to work myself into the ground like this. I'm meant to work hard, because that's what Hashem wants, but not to leave space for the blessing to come from him and to trust in him. And I just realized that today.
What did you do? How did you change it? What did you do today?
I didn't work today, whereas I would normally always work, and I've got so much stress on and so many things. I thought, no, I'm not going to. Like, I have to. Hashem wouldn't want me to drive myself crazy.
But one spiritual deed, because then you change the color of the water. If you have a glass of water and you just drop in some food coloring, all you need is one drop to change the entire liquid. It looks completely different. So it's not just not working.
But trusting, the point is, the positive side is really trusting. So doing something to show, I'm not really in control here. I'm going to work hard because Hashem wants me to work hard, but he doesn't want me to drive myself crazy and be working evening and night and weekend. So it was actually like a positive thing, like a trust. And I practiced it on Rosh Chodesh as part of that. It is a positive as well as a not doing something. It was like a state of positive mind, just kind of keeping that space.
Spirituality.
I just thought I'd share that. It was just kind of, it made me, and it's helped me. I feel less stress from not working. And
that's a very ancient and a very beautiful book, Rabbeinu Bachia. So and it is a very the prose is quite difficult to learn and to go through, but you're absolutely right. It's one of these ancient texts that just is so compelling. Part of it is because it's ancient and wise and difficult to actually access. So you have to work that bit harder, and you read a little bit less of it, but you gain so much. It's like precious drops. It's nice to learn it. Maybe we'll learn it. I wish everybody Pesach Kasher v'Sameach.